Right, I'm just about situated here. May I stay beside you, darling? Awesome. Thank you. So I'm gonna start off here by, let's see how this gets going. I have us in slow motion, which will not do. Let's try that again. Imagine a conversation in slow motion. That would be very dull to listen to. Okay, I think we're all in the view there. Wonderful. Let me start off by learning your names. What's your name, dear?
My name is Frances Castillo.
Francis, nice to meet you. And you are?
Michael.
Michael, nice to meet you. My name is Biniam. Francis and Michael. My memory is not the best, so if I butcher your name already, I'm gonna ask for forgiveness at the outset.
Certainly.
Francis, would you choose me a number between 1 and 15?
11.
11. Love it. So the way it goes, I'm going to read the question. You have no idea. I have no idea what's coming. And then we'll just kind of banter on it for a few minutes. Okay. So the question is, is integrity in a romantic context different from integrity in a platonic context?
I would believe it is. Both the nature of a romantic relationship and a platonic one require different values, different belief systems, different ways that you carry yourself. Of course, there's rules and boundaries of both relationships. The way that you conduct yourself in a romantic relationship is significantly different, usually. Of course, there's, exceptions, case by case.
Sure.
But it's quite different, usually, than the way that you carry yourself in a platonic.
Do you agree, brother?
I'm about the same as well.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm about the same as well. When it comes to relationships, you have to have a different setting compared to a platonic. Again, it's like Francis said, case by case. But when it comes to relationships, it's substantially different compared to platonic.
Okay, we're going to sort of cover the differences between the romantic and the platonic. But let me just backtrack a little bit and ask, what is integrity to you guys? As an idea, as a definition, what kind of premise are you working off of?
Integrity, for me, I'm kind of considering values versus beliefs. For me, integrity is a value, not a belief system.
Gotcha. I've never considered the difference there. Tell me more.
The values are almost like rules or guidelines that you live your life by, is how I've had it explained or how I define it for myself. Your values kind of guide your conduct, your behavior, the way that you represent yourself in any given situation or with any other people. Your beliefs are more, I'd explain it more like almost how you compose yourself, how you carry yourself, what almost keeps you going or stops you from doing something that is outside of your belief system. For example, I identify as a Christian, I guess, would be my belief system. But along with my religious or spiritual belief system, there's other conducts of how I carry myself that contribute to my beliefs. So they kind of intermingle, but they're not really used interchangeably. But back to integrity, for me, it's like a value. It's something that it's like, okay, this is my boundary of how I carry myself, how I treat others, and how I expect others to treat me in return. As long as that integrity is respected, it almost creates safety in my my relationships or safety for others, because I'm not going to cross boundaries, or I'm going to try not to, because of course I'm human, but yeah.
Right. You make space for that.
Yes.
Amazing.
Exactly.
What would you add there, brother?
First of all, brilliant. Absolutely.
I know, I was like,
oh my gosh.
that?
I know. Should have gone first.
Next time, brother. Don't worry.
Integrity to me is a lot in the same as well. It's having the respect for not only yourself, but for others around you, having that value and that belief. And I know there's differences in the two, but to me, integrity is holding a certain spirit about yourself, a certain value about yourself, and holding yourself to that value. And like Francis said, we're always human, and we will stumble and fall in those times, but our integrity is pretty much us trying to remember to be the better person and to try to grow on our mistakes, to learn and to adapt.
And then let me start off on this next part with you. We're just going to break apart a little bit that distinction with the integrity expressed in a romantic context that is contrasted with integrity in a platonic context. What are some of the primary contrast points you see there and how they're applied?
Well, with integrity, with like, let's say, a romantic interest, I find that you want to have a certain level of confidence in yourself and in your relationship. You want to have that level of, this is your person. You believe in them, you trust them, you have faith in them, and they have faith in you. When it comes to a platonic one, I feel like there's not as many of those values in place. It's a completely different dynamic that shapes up who you guys are.
Are you saying there's more a deeper investment in the romantic context than there is in the platonic context? Is that what
I believe so as well, yeah.
And hence why there's more to lose.
Oh yeah,
in the
absolutely.
former than the latter.
Absolutely.
And then in the friendship context, it's a little looser, but still as important.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. What happens with the deeper friendships that you may cultivate?
Well, with deeper friendships, I find that they can have a similar dynamic as a romantic relationship, but there's just this. I'm Christian as well. I have that spirituality, and I feel like there's a bit of a spirituality that you can't have with a regular best friend or something. Just a certain level of connection that is different.
Gotcha. Okay. Love it. Love it. Darling, how would you respond?
For me, I think, bear in mind, I am a helping professional. My background is in the healthcare field, so I, at one point, was an SPN, so a student practical nurse.
Thank you. Okay.
Of course. And I was an HCA, which is a healthcare aide. From my experience, I developed interest in the mental health and addiction field. So for me, my integrity is actually based off of my educations as well, which has been reformed because it's a grooming process when you're in school for these kinds of things. The investment that I put into my platonic and romantic relationships are very much the same. They're very similar. I give the same amount of belief, investments to both my romantic partner as I do my platonic friends. Much the same as I'm expected to if I'm on a nursing floor or working with any vulnerable sector clients or patients, whatever that might look like to me. So I don't often have the luxury to be like, I'm going to give you less investments, because a lot of my friends are very similar to the path that I've been in, which is a path of mental health and former addictions myself. So I'm more inclined to have that belief in my partner, my children, my friends, and I will be their ride or die, so to speak, that I will always be there for them. It might be 12 in the morning and I'll look at my partner and say, hey, you had me the rest of the week. I am needing to address a friend, and it might be a couple hours, it might be a couple of days, but I will be there. And it complicates things sometimes because my partners sometimes don't understand. It does sometimes cross their boundaries of integrity, but I almost hold myself to the highest level of boundaries and integrity because, again, as a helping professional, you always have to look after yourself first and foremost before I tend to others. So if I go against my integrity to not invest in my friends, my acquaintances, sometimes strangers that come my way, and yes, my partner might have a problem with that, and I'm going to have a problem with that because that's violating my integrity, my code of ethics, and how I was educated to be. So,
Love it. This is juicy. I appreciate it. May I go a little further?
of course.
Okay. My podcast is specifically intended to inspire young men to live with integrity or to consider what integrity looks like in their lives. In both your observations, in general, would you say young men are nailing it out of the park in living with integrity, or do you feel young men in general are struggling that way? You're like saying, I got some thoughts on this one. Let me know.
Honestly, as a young man myself, I
Yeah.
feel like
How young are you, brother?
I'm 28.
28.
Yeah.
Only 28. Oh, sorry. Carry on. Make your point.
I feel like a lot of us try.
Yes.
A lot of us want to learn and they want to adapt. But I feel like a lot of society has failed us. I feel like we haven't learned a lot about those integrity skills.
Sure.
And as we grow older into adults, we start to learn them. And the more experiences we have, we learn and we adapt. Like Francis was saying, the more people we meet, even strangers, the more that, like me, for instance, about a year ago, being blunt, I wasn't very caring about a lot of people and that type of thing, just those in my small circle. But lately I've been caring about everyone, opening up to everyone, and I find that my level of integrity has just grown and grown, and I've grown as a human.
In what specific ways has culture, in your experience and observation, failed young men in general in facilitating what could be?
I feel like a lot of, especially social media and like just the way that they have been pretty much raising men since the beginning has taught men to be strong by themselves, or like focusing only on their family, not caring about the stranger, not caring about the friend. And it took me many years to realize that a lot of society was teaching them that.
It's a little bit of a loaded question for me. I'm trying to just stick to the facts and isolate the emotions, but I am a domestic abuse survivor. So, unfortunately, sometimes
There is a thing known as vulnerability hangover, so just watch out. If there's
Okay.
something you don't want to share, I want to honor that too.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
but
you.
Yeah, I like consent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I feel that the integrity of men has absolutely disappointed me, disillusioned me, and destroyed me. I do understand that there's a book called The Boy Crisis. I understand a lot from that book and the individual that introduced me to the book, that there's a lot of societal norms and expectations placed on men. There's gender norms, stereotypes, culture, just how society goes. And I'm not sure where that places young men sometimes. But I do think there has to be some awareness that, yes, you have to honor where you came from. But at some point, I think young men in particular should decide who they want to be and what they want to live by, and the impact that it's going to have on others. Because when you don't live with integrity, you sometimes don't know the pain that it'll cause someone else. And you don't heal and bounce back as easily, and at least the men in my past have, it's just like they don't care. They're just on an autopilot of self-destruction and let's destroy everybody else, and very little inclination to change sometimes. But it's sad too, because it's not how they destroy somebody else, it's how they destroy themselves and the person that they could be. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. That was very vulnerable. Okay. If young men were to come to you both and say, we're trying to figure out how we could do this better, but we don't know. I like what you were saying, Mike. remind me your name again? Thank you. Oh, should have warned you. If young men were to come to you collectively and say, like Mike, we want to do this better, but we don't really know how to approach it or how to even start thinking about it or experiencing it, what are some touch points you guys would say, consider beginning your exploration here and embarking on this journey of what could be? What would you guys say?
Well, I would honestly tell them a little bit about my experience as well. I would be like, I have been lost for many years. I've been trying to figure it out by myself and that type of thing. I even did some relationships where, honestly, I just became more and more lost over time. But the point is to, eventually you have to be vulnerable. You have to open up. No matter how much you don't want to, you have to let yourself feel. And you have to let yourself just be ready to change for the better.
What you're saying, Mike, expand a little bit on how does one open up when they don't know how to open up first, and how does one express vulnerability when it's a scary proposition?
Well, honestly, the thing I've learned is pretty much you just, if you're feeling a certain way, you have to express that. You have to, not in like a negative way, but like just explain how you're feeling. You have to be open up to, let's say, a partner, and you have to be willing to expand on that. You have to be willing to take criticism and also be willing to realize that nobody's perfect. Everyone's gonna fall. But if you're willing to put in the work and keep moving forward, you will change and it will grow.
What would you say, Francis?
You know, I have 3 sons. They're 12, 8, and 4.
I would not have even guessed.
Thank you.
Oh, man. Okay.
So something that I tell my boys, because this is a societal problem. Everybody needs to take a small shred of responsibility. So it is not just the men of society that are fully alone and on their own boat and be like, you guys figure it out. No, I do believe society as a whole has responsibility and accountability to support.
Thank you. I've got 2 cameras still, but thank you for the heads up.
To support.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it because this way we have multiple feeds, including audio, so thank you. Carry on.
Of course.
It's a good point.
To support young men. So for me, as a young mom, it started with them young. I had to learn myself how to be vulnerable with them. I had to learn how to identify my feelings and go back to those building blocks that it's like, okay, let's go to the emotion wheel. What do emotions look like? What does it feel like? What does it feel like in my body? How does it affect others? After I got comfortable with myself, I was able to share that it started with my boys. That I would say, I'm having big feelings, how are you feeling? And we would have an open dialogue. My oldest child, my 12-year-old, he is the most sensitive out of my 3 boys. He cries for others, he cries for me, he has cried in school. And he has no issues being vulnerable, which I am actually very proud of. He is ashamed of that because of society, ironically. And to myself, as a young lady, I chuckle because I'm like, sweetie, you're doing fine. You're going to be amazing one day. You're going to be so skilled. And you're going to be a pro at all of this. So I actually tell him that the bravest thing that he could do is wear his heart on his sleeve, and I admire him for that. I believe there has to be more empowerment for men all around to say that it is okay to feel. It is okay to cry. It is actually the most toxic thing in this world to just be like, we're just rough and tough. Because I feel internalizing those feelings and thinking that you have to be this fortress is what precipitates some of these toxic behaviors that have led to unfortunate circumstances and situations such as the one that I have experienced. I would even tell that to my ex-husbands, that it is okay to say that I'm having a bad day. It is okay to say that maybe somebody else is more skilled. It is okay to reach out for help. And I know that encompasses vulnerability, but I use something called a fear ladder with myself, with any clients that I have the opportunity to work with, and with my children. And I encourage things like that. Just start with, hey, I want to be vulnerable. What is one tiny little step that I can take today to work towards that? And then you just keep working up and down your ladder. Sometimes you're going to skip 3 steps, and then you're going to fall, and then it's like, oh no, I was vulnerable with the wrong person. Don't give up. It's really hard to be vulnerable, and it sucks to be vulnerable sometimes, because sometimes there'll be advantageous situations, both women, men, employers, children. There's no discrimination when it comes to advantageous people, unfortunately. But you have to almost tell yourself that this is who I want to be. This is why I'm doing it. And you have to believe that there is a greater good to that, and there will be a benefit later on, even if you don't see it right away. That it's almost turning adversity into resilience. Something, the adversity that men face is, you need to be strong. You need to be a provider. Maybe your wife is nagging you, or your girlfriend is nagging you, or maybe you have mouths to feed. But you have to tell yourself that I'm not going to succumb to this pressure, and my goal is to live to this level of integrity, because this is who I want to be. This is who I want to work towards. And also know that I used to be told, you didn't get messed up overnight, you won't get fixed overnight. Yes. So, if you're a young man or a young lady living without integrity, it might be 3 months, it might be 6 months, it might be a year, it might be longer. Growth and learning is not a linear process, and it's unique to every individual, so you have to understand that, have grace, and be kind to yourself most of all.
So much wisdom in a small package, eh, Mike? Man. I'm really glad I talked to you guys tonight. Final question. Do you guys have any questions for me?
What is your background?
I'm a human. Sorry. More specifically, what do you mean?
I don't know. Are you seem like an educated. I don't know, just a feel.
I was just referencing with a friend how my academic background, it's extensive through various degrees, striving to find what really I resonate with in life. And so my background, I could tell you like what I've accomplished, but I'm not sure if that reflects like work in where my passions would lie. I think if I can speak to what I think you're hinting at, I'm interested in people. I'm interested in the way people connect. I'm interested in seeing how together we can make something worthwhile remembering in the way that we interact with people in general. The investment of energy, awareness, and growth, like you were mentioning, that could be part of that. That's my jam. And this theme that I'm focusing on, I think for me helps me get to the heart of what this could look like.
I admire that. You're doing amazing.
I appreciate that.
I guess it would be what got you into it? What made you passionate about it?
For me, Mike, it is personal experience living without it for a long time, like decades as well, like you, similar. I like what you said too, brother, because you said something along the lines of, I desired it, but you found it inaccessible in some way. You longed to experience it, but maybe it was a lack of mentors or those who can model what it can look like for you. And so I still remember those days, those years, the tremendous loss as a result of living without it, the pain that it not only caused myself, but others as well too, the lack of alignment in how you take space in life, because you don't feel quite like you can be who you truly are and express that to the world around you and do that with honesty and transparency, right? Right, yeah, huge, right? So experiencing what I experience now and knowing how I got to this point and the massive investment of both feet and engagement in what this could look like because I really desired it, and also going through the cost that it would take to bring back to alignment all those things that I'd worked out of whack I have a heart and desire to help, especially young guys who are where I once was, who are still saying we'd like to, but we don't know how to, and then I'd also love to make this part of the conversation more at large. So for my little corner of the world here, through this kind of a means here, it'd be neat to be able to say, hey, can we be a part of inspiring collectively, collaboratively, more conversations like this, making it more normal, right? Instead of awkward and, yeah.
The lives of, not only make the lives of like men better, but honestly, I think that's a huge step to making the world a better place, because by helping other people and by even like a random stranger on the street, just doing something, one act of random kindness at a time, and that's how you change the world.
And I've mentioned this on a few of my past videos. This is not my forte to come and talk to strangers without any sort of, but I think my mission drives me to say, I would like to make this more accessible. And then, like you were saying, it can inspire others. I was just talking to a gentleman just not too far from here, and I came across him to see if he was willing, and he's actually in a rough spot. But I feel even though he was in the space to be engaged, he was still gracious in saying, I'm just not in the right space, and being seen in whichever moment. Sometimes the amount of times I've come across these conversations with others, and they're like, I needed to hear this, or I needed to be a part of this, or experience this. It was by design, I think, you know? So it continues to encourage and put fuel in my tank. You're laughing for yourself.
It's funny because we were having a conversation of integrity. So it was actually, and I'm just like,
wow.
Hey. So it just made me
You
giggle.
just gotta get some of our thoughts out and what we were thinking, and without any judgment or anything like that, just open up and express it.
Yeah.
And
That's
you guys a perfect chance to do it.
I'm so encouraged by that. Mike and Francis. I was about to say Fiona. I'm like,
No, it's okay.
did I tell you my memory is just that weak? Do you?
Fiona during the princess and Shrek.
I can see. No, just kidding. No. He had. If he had hair, he would have red hair.
Oh, when he turned human, he was just like.
That's amazing. I am really delighted to make your acquaintance. Thank you for sharing vulnerably. That was a significant one too. Are you comfortable with me sharing that online?
Yes,
Okay.
of course, that is perfectly fine. I'm very much the same, just in as your mission. So I really am inspired by you too, to be honest. Except I advocate just for domestic abuse survivors, but I have learned enough empathy and understanding that, and even integrity too. It's interesting that it's both men and women that have survived those situations. I do understand the effect. So I'm not on this man-hating club. It's just a struggle, you know. I have my days. Yes.
That you're working through while trying to realign your story.
Exactly, that's right. You know, the other platform that I use, and it's sometimes just random experiences, people that contract me, people that I go visit. The most prominent for ones are on nursing floors or when I did home care. I had the opportunity to speak to others about mental health and addictions, understand where they've come from. It's even gotten to a point that a lot of people understand my story and where I've been, and they come to me as a parent, as a support person, or as a survivor to say, Francis, how did you make it through? What do we need to do? What should we avoid? And I just do that very comfortably. I think that's the other thing, the vulnerability, that you don't know how you're going to inspire or elicit change in the most magical and amazing ways sometimes. And yeah, it's
Are
really
there
cool.
socials that my viewers might be able to reach out if they have inquiries?
Not at this time. I am working slowly. Right now, I'm actually building a few businesses. So one of them will be a family liaison support, where I will be providing informal and formal, within my scope of practice and my education, supports to families. And I will also be hopefully starting my own podcast too from my
Amazing.
experiences.
Do you have an idea of what it'll be called?
Not now.
No.
My children actually inspired me to do that as well. My oldest wanted to be a YouTuber,
Yeah.
so I kind of took his idea, and I actually want to engage him as much as their consent allows me to, and I actually want to ask them what would be a good name for our channel. And
Collaborate that way.
yes,
And have them as your cheerleaders.
yes,
Amazing.
exactly. So, other than that, right now I'm just on LinkedIn and linked.
Yes.
And of course Facebook, so Instagram, those kinds of things. And
Okay.
I'm one of those people, random people message me, and I'm just like, hey, I'll talk to you. And
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't go so well, and then I have to put boundaries, and sometimes it's like, hey, Francis, can you share your knowledge and expertise? You need help? And I'm like, sure, why not?
Yeah.
So,
I like that you know how to set your boundaries too, because
Yes.
that's a critical part, isn't it?
yes, exactly.
Francis, Mike, such a delight.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
Let me share with you where you can find the video and others like it. Is that all right? That way we can actually keep in touch that way, which would be brilliant.
Oh yeah, your phone, it's all good. Yeah. Is it like YouTube?
Yeah, let's go to YouTube. That's probably the best spot there to find me. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram under the same handle, but I post primarily on YouTube.
Okay, cool.
So my name is Vinyam, V-I-N-Y-A-M. That's right, Y-A-M.
Oh,
A-S-R-E. That's me. And you'll find a lot of what I do there. And the same handle for the other social media. And if you'd like to reach out, darling, I would be delighted to hear from you as well.
Yes,
and you too,
please.
brothers. Yeah. Thank you again for sharing.
I'm looking
this
for
space.
collaboration and other experienced professionals. I as part of my nursing practice, I had to get comfortable with mentorship and everything. So I really admired, like you said, about mentorship because we all benefit from having a mentor. And that's why I talk to everybody. That I never know when I'll find a mentor or when I'll find empowerment, and then I'll just like, yes, I just got smarter just because I took a chance on a stranger.
Amazing! I love it. Well, I was walking along with my cameras earlier, and these guys came up to me and they said, "Ooh, like you saw the cameras," and they said, "Could you videograph our event?" And I said, "That's not the kind of videos I do. I'm amateur at this technology, as you were probably telling. I do what I can. I learn as much as I can. Like even this whole setup here, I've had to graduate to it, audio but this is what I do. But I try to learn this well so I can do this. I present this to those who I want to understand.
It's one of my goals to eventually kind of like
Yeah. Yeah.
support what you
Yeah.
allowing not only myself to learn more and grow, but for people around my world to see it and to grow.
Sure enough. You guys are sweet.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure to meet you, darling.
Thank you so much for
My
your
pleasure.
time.
Mike, thank you for sharing as well. I appreciate you guys. Again, this is my neighborhood here, so if I wanted to, well, if you
Oh,
see me
super
along,
cool. I actually live, it's,
one of these apartments here.
yeah.
Brilliant.
It's amazing. I actually receive a lot of support through Discovery House, which is like addictions and mental health, all sorts of things. So it's like, that's what started to inspire me once I reached out for help. And I started receiving so much support. I got so many resources, knowledge, my education, and I'm like, this is too much for just me. And my belief is also like, if I have gifts, it's actually to share.
Absolutely.
So, why keep them
Absolutely. Like eventually you start burning over. That's why I tell people like they really enjoy what they experience with me, but what I have to help them understand is what you're getting from me is really just the overflow. Like that's how much I'm like satiated of what I'm sharing with others. So
It's not my problem. I'm happy.
yeah. Okay.
Go around and feed the homeless. I wanted to help people and hear their story.
Yeah.
And need them.
Yeah.
And just changing the base marker. So
So I remember this recently.
Yeah.
That's worthwhile. It's noteworthy, but it's also energy infusing, isn't it? Like, and I guess that
it changes up your mindset too.
It does.
You'll be so focused on, let's say, money, power, and
Sure.
everything, that bam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Corner.
Yes. It was late when I sat down with you guys. It's now getting dark. I'm gonna make my way home, but I'm gonna have to throw on my light now. It's like before this, I'm like, I probably should put my light on. I think we'll be fine. They won't see me.
It was truly
Delightful. Thanks for letting me take your space too. You guys are having a great time here, I'm sure. But this has enriched my life today. You're welcome. Awesome.
Really amazing. Like therapy on my own.
That's awesome. All right, you two. Hope to see you again.
Yes, of course. I'll see you.
Good night.
Take care.